evening, everyone. Welcome to the Music Box. My name is Mike Miller, and for the last 12 years, I've said that I am the managing partner here at the Music Box. Things have changed. 2 weeks ago, we signed the paperwork. Colleen and I have turned the company over, and we've become an employee-owned company, guys. So now, I'm an employee, and the folks that are serving you your dinner, serving you drinks, serving you your tickets, they are now the owners of the Music Box, guys. And I work for them. When we set this up, we set it up as what's called a business trust, and it's called a purpose trust. It's a brand new approach to employee ownership for the U.S. It's very popular in Europe. Our two goals, our two missions was one, take care of the employees who have really been the ones that made this place a success. And form a profit-sharing opportunity for them and an opportunity for them to run the show. And two was to continue the Music Box as a community asset, something that, again, you guys see a lot of shows and concerts here, but we also do about 40 to 50 weddings a year. We do about 80 fundraisers a year. We do about 80 to 90 company events here. To me, what we are is a community asset. And so employee-owned community asset. And so it's going to be a new day at the Music Box. But you know me, I got to promote a couple things. All right, so again, big round of applause. This man's enjoying it. Yingling is a supporter of this series too. And we're very proud of having Yingling as a sponsor. Two, long-term sponsor of the show has been the Cleveland History Center, a museum in University Circle. And guys, if you have not been to that museum, it's amazing. I was just there a couple weeks ago for my cousin was in town from Europe, and I took him there. And he wouldn't leave. I think he's still riding the carousel. I'm telling you, it is an amazing place to bring your family when they come into town. All right, guys, a very fun storyteller night next Thursday. This has become one of my favorites. This is the third year. We are actually, where we are is ground zero of Irish Town. This is where all the Irish lived when they first moved to Cleveland in the 1800s. And we've got an Irish show upstairs tonight as an example. But I bring in some of the great Irish performers that live here in Cleveland now, direct from Ireland, and they tell a bunch of Irish lies. Old Irish tales, okay? So you're going to love this night if you have any relationship to Ireland. So you should come next week to see that. And then, guys, the week after that, I'm very proud. We have an annual Michael Stanley night where his original manager still lives in town, David Spiro, just an amazing guy, brings in a panel that tells stories. This year, he's bringing in a bunch of performers. They're going to sing some of Michael's song, but very acoustic, very organic, and they're going to tell their own stories of how Michael helped them in their careers and in their lives. So Michael Stanley night in 2 weeks, guys. So please plan and attend, all right? How you doing, Terry?
I am fine.
I got your book wet. So spilled his most recent book here. Terry, you've been kind enough to come back for the last several years, and I'm going to turn it over to you for a second. So,
are you telling me that the only way to read why this team can't find a quarterback is with soaked in beer?
That's it.
That's what.
What's your point?
None. You said Irish. By the way, a guy sent me an Irish tale. You could decide whether it's true. Because one of the times I was like, why are you a Browns fan? This guy sends me an email, and it says, my Irish ancestors could have settled anywhere. And they could have stayed in New York, or they could have gone to Chicago. But no. They decided to settle on the banks of the Cuyahoga. I'm not making it up. It was O'Neill's or something. And that is why I got stuck with the Cleveland Browns. They just stayed here, and that is it. And I think he probably had a few beers as he was writing the email, because a few things are kind of, there. But what I really wanted to do is I came around. I tried to get to at least a number of the tables. I thank you guys so much for coming. I mean, really, no, it means a lot. I've been doing this stuff for a long time, even longer than you, Mike Miller. By the way, the 1973 Cleveland CYO championship basketball team. That's
Here they are. The whole team's right here.
Right there. There we are. I mean, what great moments in sports history. Sometimes that's about the greatest moments in sports history in Cleveland. But I really am grateful, whether it's when I speak at a library or the people just come out and are so kind. And I'm thankful. I'm thankful that I've mentioned before, but that I work in not just the sports department, but the diversion department, diversion from real life. Sports operates in that. Yeah, I mean, you get mad about the Browns or mad about this, but it's nothing like that phone call at 2 a.m. or that test from the doctor that came back the wrong way. And I've had a lot of discussions with people because of Roberta and I have been engaged in a lot of elder care over the years of, whether it's in waiting rooms or whatever, and sometimes people recognize me. And it almost sounds like when I did prison ministry, it's kind of like, well, what are you in for? We're here for the, we got the kidney cancer, we got this. And after about 5 minutes of that, then it's like, well, Terry, you think the Browns would be any good? And that's fine. It takes us out of that stuff that we're dealing with. That kid in our life that's driving us nuts, that doesn't want to move out, and he's older than I am, all these, that kind of stuff. So sports is very important. You coming out is very important. And I'm just curious, how many of you have heard me speak here before?
Ooh, look at that.
Yes. And how many of you just heard me speak somewhere or other? What's wrong with the couple that didn't know? No, that needs a lot too. So that means I got to come up with something new. But before Mike and I get going, how many of you heard Roberta sing before? My wife. We're here with Regina Brett. There we go. All right, Roberta, you're up. If you haven't heard Roberta, see, the key thing when you're getting married is to scout and recruit well. And I did that with her. And if the Browns had just done that, I wouldn't be writing books like, why can't they find a quarterback? Because you would have had Patrick Mahomes, or we would have had somebody for a long time, and then you just would have found another one. I don't want another one. I just want her. 48 years we've been married. She's 30. She got a year older from the last time I did the joke. She's 33 now. So, but anyway, Roberta and I, of course, we've been doing ministry for many decades, and right now our main place is the Haven of Rest, which is Akron City Mission, and you can't really face her because she's sung in front of a bunch of people doing time like forever in jail, so you get to hear her sing now.
This is a favorite of mine from Psalm 61. He gave me beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that we might be trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that he might be glorified. He gave me beauty for sorry. It's hard to sing after eating. I'm sorry. It really is. Anyway, we glorify the Lord. Praise the Lord. Amen.
Yay!
Amen. And stay up here. Now, if only the Browns could recover from their mistakes like she did there. And Roberta, by the way, we figured it out. So we've known each other for 52 years. So just think of how many of my stories she has edited in that time. It's 1,346. I mean, no, sir, all the first editing on the books we do, researching now, like whenever I write a story, I print it out. She checks it, fact checks, all that kind of stuff.
Sends it by email, and then I print it out, and I check it, and I call him if he's at the stadium.
Right, because it's like I'm making a lot of mistakes. The older I get, the tougher it is. But anyway, I'm so blessed to have her, and we're blessed that you are here.
All right, let's get going.
All right, Mike.
All right, so I'm going to start like I usually do.
What is?
Terry, not all the hands went up.
Yes.
All right, where were you born? Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school?
I was born in Cleveland. Somebody asked me what hospital. I'm not sure. My parents lived in I think it was West Park area at that point. But grew up in Parma, and then later Northfield, and then went to Benedictine, and went to Hiram for a year. That's where I met Roberta. By the way, you're talking to a guy who's a 500 hitter in baseball in his college career. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
I was at Hiram. I went 1 for 2 with a sacrifice bunt. So there. And then I met her there, and then finished up at Cleveland State. We got married right after I graduated.
Oh, so you're a Clevelander.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I live in Akron because when I switched later on over to the Beacon Journal, we bought a house there. And then now it's 18 years since the Point Dewar came back. For me, it's my second tour of duty. And I don't know about you, like if your house is paid for and you like it,
stay there.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
They invented this thing called the internet. I can send my stories in from anywhere, so it works. And I also, by the way, we coming up, my first full-time job was Greensboro. Roberta made all the stops with me. Then we went to Savannah. Then we went to Baltimore. Then to the Point Dewar. Then back to Savannah for a year. Then to the Beacon Journal, and now the Point Dewar. At one point when we were moving around when we were real young, Roberta said people come to her, "Are you in the military?" What is with all that? So that's the bio.
All right, that's perfect. One of the things, you have written a lot of books. You write an enormous number of stories every week. I mean, you're almost on every page sometimes.
Yeah, the Sunday paper, they save up my stuff and put it in there. So.
Yeah, and so, I mean, but really, how would you define, what do you see your job as? What's your job?
It's always dangerous when you kind of say, well, there's two kinds of this, whatever it is. But I think in some ways there's two kinds of writers. Some write for themselves and some write to be read. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with if you write for yourself, you keep journals or your thoughts, that's great. But if you're in my business, where you're writing for an audience, you have to figure out what they're interested in or tell a story in a way that will make them to be interested. And I've always been glad that I could earn my living by writing, because my mother worked in a bowling alley, Parmatown Lane, Georgetown Lanes, a bunch of those in the West Side. And then my dad worked at the old Fisher Fazios in the warehouse. And when I was in school, several summers, I also worked at Fazio's warehouse. And, I mean, it was good work and all that, but it really made me want to be a writer. I mean, because it was tough stuff, working in the warehouse. And then when I was, my degree, actually secondary ed, social studies minor in English. And by then I was already at Cleveland State starting to sell stuff to different publications. But I've written more books in my house growing up. It's not a knock on my parents, but, this is a Slovak thing going back, the immigration story. And so that I realized I better have a backup in case this thing doesn't work. So then I spent 6 months to get certified teaching at Lincoln West. 5 classes a day, 3 different preps, plus a study hall. First of all, by that last period, I couldn't remember what I said or what I didn't say earlier in the class. I just wanted, like the kids, I wanted it all to be over. And then the other thing is, it made me realize what a challenging thing that is. And I have a lot of respect for teachers who do that and did that. And then I was able to go out and chase after writing. So, and that's 127 years ago. Did you know that?
And she's only 33.
And she's still 33.
All right, cool. All right, so, are you just still thrilled to be a sports writer in Cleveland?
I always say, well, first of all, yes, if you're going to write sports, it really helps to be in your hometown. And remember, I mentioned early on, Greensboro, Savannah, Baltimore. I mean, I covered the Orioles in '79 when they went to the World Series, and that was a lot of fun with Earl Weaver and all that. Yeah, Cleveland was terrible in '79. They didn't even matter to that, but the Orioles did. But I knew how everybody was so excited in Baltimore about that. But to me, it was an interesting story. But there was nothing like in '95 when the Tribe, there you go, when the Tribe, went to the World Series, or '97, or 2016, and all the rest. So that really, those were things that it was easy to write from the heart on that. But really, Mike, I like sports, but I love to write. And the best writers and broadcasters that I know, like Joe Tate was a very close friend of mine, Jimmy Donovan was a good friend, Tom Hamilton. I mean, they like the sport they're around, but what they like best is broadcasting. And you could tell they'll switch over to some other sport. It's not a big problem for them. Because they're, like you talk about storytellers, I mean, they're storytellers in a different form. So that's the thing that still keeps me going. Because frankly, if I had to put all my emotions in how the Cleveland teams are doing, I would not be here. I would be somewhere with 4 analysts, and they'd be trying to kind of work through all my angst and that from that. So I'm blessed about that.
Cool. Now, you've written more than 30 books. And guys, I have to tell you, this one, there are so many insights about this topic. Why can't this team find a quarterback? It was one of my favorite books that you've written.
That's because you like to suffer, Mike.
I love it. But let's cut right to the chase. Answer the question. Why can't this team just find a quarterback? Answer that in 30 seconds.
It's like, dear Lord, why is there pain in the world? A lot of times, they've sort of had quarterbacks and messed it up. And you could start with, the book starts with Tim Couch in '99. You bring a guy in, and you put him with an expansion team. And in true Browns fashion, they were supposed to wait 5 to 6 games that year to play him. They had a veteran named Ty Detmer. They waited 3/4 of the opening game, and they're getting slaughtered by Pittsburgh to bring in Tim Couch, who, of course, just got crushed. And Tim, later on, he actually helped the Browns get to the playoffs. But by the time he's 27 years old, the man has had shoulder surgery, knee surgery. He's just battered and bruised because of all the things he took, getting beat. It was the beginning of my theory, like, I don't really like playing these rookie quarterbacks right away. I mean, sometimes they're good enough, but you have to have, the support around them. So you go from Couch, and then you get into all these different guys. You sort of have a guy that's pretty good with Baker Mayfield. And I was talking to someone, you remember in 2020, they went to the playoffs with Baker. 21, the second game of the season, he throws an interception. I have a rule, by the way. Quarterbacks and kickers and punters, you are not allowed to try to tackle anybody. Because every time you do, you get hurt. You're not football players. You're kickers, punters, and quarterbacks. And you're hard to replace. I mean, it sounds, but it's very true. Especially sometimes if they run, they're sort of getting ready. But they don't know how to tackle. And what does Baker do? He throws his left shoulder into a linebacker who picked off his pass. And next thing, the shoulder pops. And in 21, he's terrible. He's playing with a bad shoulder. I still, to this day, they won't give me a good answer why they kept playing him. They're losing. In the meantime, they kind of lost faith in him. And it's just like they had this wonderful epiphany. By the way, when you have voices in your head, you got to check where they're coming from. And if something's whispering, get Deshaun Watson no matter what.
Well, you actually, I think it was actually the second chapter.
Yeah.
And you called it a big swing and a miss.
Yeah, Jimmy Haslam's words.
You know, Deshaun Watson. So let's talk about that a little
I
bit.
mean, it really was a matter of now looking back, along with the desperation of the quarterback, then at that point, the Browns were already thinking Dome Stadium. Got to win, got to get people excited. And they just saw what they wanted to see. They kept staring at tapes of Deshaun Watson in 2020, where he was very good. They ignored the fact that he signed a contract, a 4-year extension on his contract before the 20 season. He played 1 year, then sat out and demanded to be traded. So he doesn't even play in 2021. And then all the civil lawsuits pop up and everything else. And they had to know he was going to be facing a long suspension. So they signed him to this ridiculous contract because he had a no-trade. You need an agent like this. Listen to this guy. So they set up called like a meet and greet with Deshaun to see he's not a terrible guy, blah, blah, blah. So 4 different teams come in, and in the contract that Deshaun had signed with Houston, the extension, he had a no-trade clause. So when they realized a couple of these teams were interested, they said, well, we'll go, but you got to give Deshaun a new contract. So the meet and greet turned into a contract renegotiation. And Cleveland, there was 4 teams. Cleveland was the first eliminated. By the way, the other 3 were all Carolina and Atlanta and New Orleans. They were all Southern teams. Deshaun's from Atlanta. He didn't want to play in Cleveland. The last game he played, there was one of those 35-year-old, whatever, wind and all that stuff. So they were the first team eliminated, and basically the owner told Andrew Berry, call back and get the deal done. So they got it done, and you see what they got. But it's the desperation along the way. I mean, you should have pulled out right. What do you mean? This guy's got all these lawsuits, and he wants a new contract after sitting out a year. That sounds like exactly what you want when you're going to recommit the highest contract in the history of the NFL. It was crazy. And anybody who wasn't like emotionally on this would have just said, no, we'll wait a year. Maybe we'll get Baker fixed. We'll try something else. But it was always desperation. And so you end up with what we've got now. And he's played a grand total of 19 games here. It's a cheap shot line, but frankly, he's settled more civil suits than he's played games for the Browns. But it's true. It's 20-some. And just, it's not, and the fact that they think he can come back and play, okay, fine, but he's had 2 Achilles surgeries, and really, he had this major shoulder surgery in 23, and when he played in 24, you could see he wasn't throwing the ball the same way. And I guess they want to try it again, and that's their.
You think they're going to try it again this year?
I got a feeling, yeah. I'm not a huge Shedeur Sanders fan, but I'd rather see him try that. I mean, I see upside there. Deshaun has never played more than 7 games in a season for the Browns in all this time. He's going to year number 5. I mean, I guess I could say the odds are he probably won't last long. And you can tell I'm down on this, but I'm discouraged because you guys, you love this team. You're dying for something. When they win a few games, the town goes nuts. I mean, they just do. And exactly. So give the people something to root for. Like when I wrote the book, Vintage Browns. Okay, cheap plug, but true. It's a good book. And the reason is I kept hearing how people say, yeah, but back in the 80s, it was the drive and the fumble and Red Right 88. Fine. Those teams were in the playoffs. Tell me exactly what is real wrong with that. Yeah, I had one friend say, when the Browns are bad, they're awful, but when they're good, they're excruciating because of how I wish it's the line I wish I had. But so anyway, the real thing there is that those guys were good guys, with Bernie and Biner and all those different players, and you wanted to see them play. You felt good, even though you were frustrated. You felt good about what they were doing. And that's somehow, I mean, the Browns have not had back-to-back winning seasons, not playoffs. Winning one more game than you lose. That's a winning season. We're not used to that around here. That's why I had to do the math. So, but the idea, they haven't had that since Bernie was quarterback.
Wow. You see, I have to interject. I think their big miss, you call it Deshaun Watson, I think it actually happened in 2018 draft, where they took Baker and they missed Josh Allen.
Yeah. Yeah.
That to me was a bigger
big,
miss.
It was a big one. And, yeah, 2018, that was one they missed on. Interestingly,
You kind of hinted at
yeah.
it. Does it go back to, again, an owner that might be interjecting himself too much?
No, I know John Dorsey well. Baker was his guy. Yeah, you go back at that draft and you look, and you had Baker, you had Sam Darnold, who, by the way, has resurrected his career, but he was a disappointment with several teams. And then you had Josh Allen out of Wyoming, the cradle of quarterbacks. No, not really. I've been to Laramie. I could tell you about Wyoming, and I love Wyoming, but it's not there. But and then actually the way I rated him, I actually had Allen as my number one quarterback when I rated there, and number two I had Baker. No, I'm sorry, I have to own up. I was dumber than the Browns, which is saying something. I had Josh Rosen as my number one quarterback in that draft. Yeah, right. He's long gone. If you don't remember him, there's a reason for that. And then number two, I had Allen, and number three, I had Baker. I didn't even have Lamar Jackson, who was in that draft. And so, by the way, this shows you how good. See, when you're a good front office, like we have to admit the Ravens. Of course, they should still be here, and Ozzie Newsome still should be running the Browns. He liked Lamar Jackson. So he trades up at the bottom of the first round and takes the guy and says, well, let him sit behind Flacco for a while, and let's see if we have something here. And they had something there.
For sure. One of the chapters that just popped out as so insightful to me, because I wasn't looking to see it, was you wrote a chapter on Al Lerner, Gone Too Soon. And, talk about that a little bit. Why you felt that was important to put in this book?
Because you had a combination of both Al Lerner owning the team and Carmen Policy being the guy running it, and Carmen was a very experienced NFL guy. And then when Al passed away, he had brain cancer. Then all of a sudden it went to his son, Randy Lerner, who was completely ill-equipped to do this, to run this whole organization. And Policy kind of faded into the background and left. And Randy was always looking for whether it was Eric Mangini or Butch Davis, somebody to save him, and he would give this coach all these powers. And 99% of these coaches should not have total power over player personnel or anything. And he just was overmatched. And I remember talking to him. He loved modern art. He liked a lot of that, but it's like the football part. I mean, he was sort of a fan, but it was like, it was a bad vibe. You could just tell. And then, he sold the team to Jimmy. And Jimmy, it's really funny. One of the things I hear from fans is, well, the Guardians don't want to win. At least the Browns want to win. And I say, well, help me with the logic. So the team that wants to win doesn't, and the team that doesn't want to win, playing on a smaller budget and a tougher place to win, wins. So I guess God must be smiling on the Guardians, or so. I don't know what that is. But other than the fact, no, just wanting to do anything. You heard how beautifully Roberta sings. Mike, you will appreciate this. Maybe you're very musical or whatever. I am not. In fact, when we do a lot of gospel songs, when we're doing ministry at the Haven Arrest or other places, you're clapping with it. It's like, as I tell the guys, I don't have white man's rhythm. I have dead man's rhythm. I'm hearing nothing. And that kind of is somehow you sense that the thinking and desperation of the Browns is sort of like that. You want to do it. Just because you want to do it doesn't mean you can do it.
I agree. All right. So, guys, again, he's got 30 books. He writes every week about every team in town. So I do want to hear your thoughts on going into the Guardian season. Were you a little frustrated that once again they make no moves and they're just depending on their youth? So, what do you think about their outlook this season?
Well, there are some teams that they're great in the offseason, then you see them play. And there are other teams that just are boring in the offseason, and then you see them play. And the verdict is when they play. And, yeah, and the great move was that they did sign Jose. I mean, we will never have another Jose Ramirez. I mean, this guy is amazing. You're right. From Bani, B-A-N-I, Dominican Republic, a town not too far from Haiti, and signed. The story on how Jose was found, he was playing in the Dominican. You had like the star young players are there, and then you have like the other guys. They're not called the back diamond guys. And Paul Mirabelli was the tribe's like international scout at the time. And he had a couple that kind of called bird dogs. And were these guys in the Dominican that come up. And he tells Mirabelli, you got to come see this guy. So this guy, Jose Ramirez. It's a little guy. Don't let it put off. So they go, and he starts going where the big games. No, he doesn't play there. They found him on the back diamonds, which really look like, some diamond at the Luke Easter Park or somewhere. I mean, just not much. And he watches him in doubleheader, and he gets a couple hits in that. And then the next day he gets a few more hits. And nobody was offering him anything. So they sent, I can't remember if it was $25,000 or $50,000, which sounds like a lot of money to Dominican, but basically there's kind of a rule that's the minimum you could sign a kid for. So then Paul Mirabelli, who did that, he said, he sends me this picture. There's a diamond grazing in the outfield. That's where they found him. In between games, guys would bring their donkeys to graze in the outfield. I guess it saves a ground crew. You don't have to cut the grass. But and imagine that guy becomes what he's become. And, he could walk through airports or anywhere, unless you're really a hardcore fan. You would never a lot of people will never believe he even played baseball, in the minors or anywhere when you look at him. And he is so into he says, they let me play baseball here. They don't bother me. And that's what he wants. He just wants to play ball. He's determined. He just dragged that team into the playoffs last year. And you can see he's in the corner of the dugout, and he talks to Andre Knott. And, Andre would say, look, they're looking at the iPads and what to do. The players gather around him. And he and, by the way, Austin Hedges are very tight, and they help run the clubhouse. And that's an important thing. When Hedges left for a year, Jose pushed hard to bring him back. He said, and because that year they didn't win the division, and he says, we need him. And, Jose hardly asked for anything. So fine, you want a backup catcher that can't hit, but he could really catch. He's an excellent catcher. And if that's, the Guardians don't have stupid stuff going on. They just don't. And part of the reason is because of who the players are.
Now, are you excited about anybody they have brought up? I mean, I actually think they've got some kids that they've been bringing up that are going to really someday. I think we're on a path. I really do.
Yeah, well, I saw Chase DeWater in 23 playing at Lake County in a doubleheader. That was his first year of pro ball. He's their first-round pick way back when. And it was one of those where you didn't have to see a long time to say this guy's going to be a big league player. I don't know how great he's going to be. But he's 6'2". He weighs 220 pounds. He had only one Division I scholarship offer. That was James Madison. Even though he was a West Virginia High School Player of the Year, he was an honor student. When he played at James Madison, which is in Harrisonburg, Virginia, he's a Division I but lower. He played the outfield, batted cleanup, and he also closed games by coming out of the bullpen to throw 90 miles an hour. And so that's the guy. The problem there is he always had these foot problems and everything else. But every time he's played, he's hit. I mean, this year already, last I saw he was 4 for 8. I saw a game on TV the other day. He doubled to left field and then homered to right. And it really, I mean, they haven't had an outfitter like this in quite a while. So that's something to be excited about. Of course, the pitching factory, they just roll out these pitchers. They just one after another. and that gives them a chance. You know, they have some guys, George Valera, the number 1 pick, Travis Bazzana, in my mind, he has to play in the minors and do something. I mean, he's just been okay when he's played. We'll see. And then also the guy that I really like, I saw him in a doubleheader last year at Akron, Ralphie Velasquez. He's a first baseman, and he has the same kind of swing that I thought when I saw Delauder. I said, no, this guy's different than these other guys that are around. So hopefully they got a couple of hitters coming. You know they're going to pitch well. They don't generally do too many stupid things, and they do a lot of smart stuff. So they've won the title in the Central Division 3 of the last 4 years. If this was the Browns, they'd be building statues to them.
And it's not like this division is easy.
No.
I mean, we have some good teams in this.
Right.
division.
I mean, the Tigers are good.
Yeah.
And then so you have to deal with that. And I also am really just I'm amazed at some of the stuff they do. Like they made one terrible trade. They traded this kid, Junior Caminero, for a pitcher named Myers. And Caminero, of course, they traded him when he was 18. Of course, he's hitting 35 home runs for Tampa Bay. You're going, oh, Lord. You know, what that would have meant to have him. By the way, he has the same agent as Jose, that guy does. But, you know, they also got a really good hitter for a pitcher named Aaron Savali, who's just so, and Kyle Manzardo. And, to me, first of all, I like going to Progressive Field. It's got a nice vibe to it. I grew up with the Tribe of the 60s. And if you grew up with the Tribe of the 60s or the 70s or the 80s until really the middle 90s, and you're complaining about this? Just saying.
All right, let's step over to the Cavs. So what do you think of the Harden trade and bringing him in?
Well, at first I was against it because I figured how long will it be before James wants to be traded again. Then a couple things came up. The big one being when they traded Darius Garland to the Clippers. So the Clippers have a press conference. They say, well, we're not – Darius, by the way, finally just started to play now. It says, we have to keep Darius out longer. He has a toe problem. Well, the Cavs said the toe problem was on the foot that did not have surgery, which I guess was a toe problem. But the Clippers said it's actually the main thing we're worried about is the toe that just was surgically repaired in the summer. And I'm like, oh, glad you got rid of him for whatever. You take Harden and hope for the best there. But the other thing that I'm really upbeat about is they traded DeAndre Hunter for Keenan Ellis and Ricky Schroeder. You watch those guys come off the bench, and all of a sudden now, they talk about toughness in this, and people kind of flash back to the bad boys and just knocking guys over and that. That's not how the game's played. Toughness now is pressure defense. By the way, when the Cavs lost to Indiana, do you know they out-rebounded Indiana in that series? They gave up some key rebounds in the wrong time, but the problem was they were just harassed by Indiana's pressure defense. Oklahoma City, the same way. Who is Oklahoma City's enforcer? They don't have one. But they got a bunch of guys, and if you watch the Cavs of late, like Jalen Tyson and Schroeder and Keenan Ellis, Craig Porter Jr., some others, they're in your face. They're making it hard. They're making it uncomfortable. Name drop warning coming, but I remember when I was on the NBA beat, and that was back when the stars actually would kind of sit around the locker room before games, and they would, if you went up for about 20, 30 minutes, they'd talk to you. So a couple of us, Bert Grafe and I, went talking to Magic Johnson, Bert, a longtime writer for the Plain Dealer, and I remember brought up the subject of, pressing defenses or whatever, and I said, Magic, I can't imagine, do pressing defenses bother you? And Magic is like always smiling. He looks at me and he goes, no point guard likes to be pressed. If they say they do, they're lying. And that's, again, if you watched the other day when they played Detroit with Cade Cunningham, they had Jalen Tyson was the first one. They had Keenan Ellis. They were all over this guy. So it's not about stomping people or whatever because, frankly, the big, fat, old enforcer, he can't keep up with the pace of the game right now. But these other guys who are mentally tough defensively and they're all over the floor, that's what's helping to win. You obviously have to put the ball in the basket, but that's what's helping to win. And Kobe Altman, the team president, took what I thought was kind of a hopeless situation for the playoffs and in 2 moves, he got rid of DeAndre Hunter. By the way, he's out for the season with eye problems. Well, Lonzo Ball, who basically got cut by Utah, and Darius, who's just coming back now, they were getting nothing out of those guys. And then you bring in Harden when James is in a good mood. Is that a good thunder or a bad thunder? I don't know.
That was a table being moved.
Oh, all right. You would know. No, the employees would know. By the way, what he's doing with the employee thing, that's really a good thing, Mike. I'm so glad about that.
I'm very proud of that.
Okay.
All right. One of the things I've been fascinated about is Harden breaks his thumb, and it's barely in the press still.
Yeah.
I know it's on his non-shooting hand, but I think this is going to really impact our chances a lot.
Well, fortunately, it's on the offhand, but if the last game, if you watch, he did not shoot the ball well, and he had some turnovers. But these guys will splint it up and play. The tough thing is when you have to use your hands to catch the ball. So we'll see how it goes. I remember when they traded for Harden, and I was talking to a guy who's NBA guy, is very connected, and he said a couple of things. First of all, he said, well, James will be really great until he's not. And he said, by that I mean he'll want to be traded again or something. He said, but usually he's good year or so, he's really good. And he said the second thing about James, he says, unlike some of these guys, he actually likes to play basketball. He plays a lot of games. He plays a lot of minutes. He likes to play. And I think that's what he said. I'm just going to splint this thing up and figure out how to play in it. But it's not, nobody says the best way to play basketball is put a splint on your thumb. Would you recommend that? After all, you were on that CYO City Championship team.
I play with a broken leg. Ask the
guys.
Oh,
yeah, man.
All right, guys, let's turn it over. This is Terry Pluto. So any sports question is an open, but I got to tell you again.
Mike, we have to go. Remember what we do here for the first question.
Oh, yeah?
The first question, no.
All right. Go ahead.
The first question must come from a lady.
First question is from a lady every time with Terry. So
where do we?
Oh, here we go.
All right.
Go ahead.
Before we begin, Roberta, here we go.
You've got a little gift
Ladies,
coming.
you're going to say, I should have done this.
Yeah.
What do we have, Roberta?
Oh, you're going to get a book.
You get a free book. Hold on, wait a minute. Hold up the books. Here we go.
All right.
Book number 1, what do we have?
All right.
The Browns Blues, Faith book, Vintage Browns.
Which would you like?
Faith
took the
book.
Faith
She looked
book.
at those Browns and said, I need to pray.
All right. Question. What's your question?
Good. I'll let you handle the questions. No. You ask your question. He interprets for me. I answer.
All right.
That way people will get to hear it on the microphone.
It has to do with the column that you recently wrote about him.
Your column you recently wrote.
About the has nothing to do with sport, but I wanted to say that it touched me deeply because he's such a wonderful man and he's a great.
All right. She was complimenting you on the article you just wrote. It was last week's paper on Leon Bibb.
Yeah, Leon, the first African American anchor in news, Cleveland guy from Glenville, and how he came up in the news business, and the thing he talked about how at times he really felt kind of like God spoke to him on something to do. Because my thing is, a lot of times I really believe like when the Holy Spirit were to speak, it's something very, very short. It's nothing like when these people say, God spoke to me and 20 minutes later are still going, I don't think that's right. Because most of the time, even biblically, say God kind of speaks in a whisper. But like he went to Bowling Green, got a journalism degree, had trouble finding a job, and was looking over. He walked into the office of the Call Post begging for a job, the black paper in town. They hired him, later went into TV. And he's just such a class act. Leon's, I think, 82 now, live in Shaker Heights. And he just still does some work for TV3. But I just find we are blessed to have remarkable people. He was a pioneer, and the other guy, I don't know Leon that well. It was the longest conversation, but somebody is a good friend of mine is Wayne Dawson from TV8, who just battled through 2 rounds of horrible cancer, jaw cancer, and all this. And I mean, he's another Cleveland guy. Shaw High School, went to Kent State, and then worked his way up in the TV business. So we're blessed to have those guys.
Oh, I agree. All right. Question over here. Yell it out.
All right, so go back to the Baker draft. Do you think Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, or any of those guys are successful in Cleveland with the teams that we had?
All right. Good question. I brought up the 2018 draft and that we missed Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Would they have been a success in Cleveland?
That's always one of the biggest questions. Why is Sam Darnold good now? A good team around him. Maybe he's a little more mature. He was originally the New York Jets. It's another place quarterbacks go to die, like Cleveland. And then he went to Carolina, which generally was a bad place to. And so then, it is one of those questions. I mean, Baker was on his way to being a pretty good quarterback, and had he been patient, you see him in Tampa Bay. All right, we would be here frustrated because you're winning 10 games and going to the playoffs and not going anywhere. But again, it's a watchable team. So I think possibly Josh Allen would have been successful. Because actually, yes, I'll say why. Because the Bills were no good for years too. They went 17 years without being in the playoffs. And then Tyrod Taylor took them for a year. Then Allen went there, and they found a pretty good coach in McDermott. But overall, the track record here, they're still trying to develop a quarterback.
Oh, I agree. All right. Go ahead. Yell it out. Do you think we're going to – this is the question he knew was coming tonight.
Yeah.
He told me when he first walked in, someone will ask, are we going to see LeBron again?
At least we went 2 questions before it came up. And the Leon Bibb opener was a great one. Then we went back to quarterbacks to do. But LeBron, all right, first of all, trying to guess what the Cavs are going to do right now is foolish. And I don't mean it's a foolish question, but it's just foolish. The Cavs lose in the first round. Who knows what happens? Coaches get fired, people get traded, everything else. Secondly, does LeBron really want to come here? He may, but maybe not. I mean, he's been in LA for 6 years, and so that's it. Then thirdly, now James Harden, I'm sure, was given promises about his fully guaranteeing his contract to play next season. So you will have a 37-year-old James Harden and a 41-year-old LeBron James. I heard Mark Price at 50 would like to. I'm serious. We want our guys to play forever, but now if you look at LeBron, see, a lot of us frozen in our memory, including mine, is how he dragged those teams the last 4 years to the finals, especially the last couple years. And that LeBron is not the same LeBron as now. He could still have good games and all that stuff. All right, but he's been there 6 years, so stay with me on this. This is the facts. In 20, they won the title with the Lakers. He had one other trip to the Final Four in 23. Then there's 4 other years, 2 playoff misses, 2 losses in the first round. Now, LeBron had never lost a first-round playoff until he went to the Lakers. And what I'm saying is where his ability to just carry you is not there anymore. He's 40-some years old. Everybody else is like playing pickup ball at the Y at that age, So what he's done is remarkable, but, I don't see it. But I also know if things go totally haywire, Dan Gilbert could try anything, but I really would rather see them, if you want to keep building with somebody under 40.
Go ahead, yell it out.
So, Cavs aside, since they have won a championship in the last decade-ish, if you had to pick, what would you rather see? The Guardians win a World Series or the Browns win the Super Bowl?
Oh, great question. What would you rather see? The Guardians win a World Series? The Guardians win a World Series or the Browns win a Super Bowl? Which would you rather see?
I want to
being
vote.
a Clevelander.
I want to vote. Let's see a vote. How many?
Oh, that's a good question. Let's ask the question. How many would want to see a Guardians World Series victory?
Ooh,
look at
this
that.
is going to be close. How about Browns?
How about a Browns Super Bowl? All right, you both voted for everything.
Yeah. All right. By the way, the lady who asked the question, Roberta, which book would you like? We have Browns Blues, if you like to suffer. We have Vintage Browns, if you like to remember. And The Guy with the Sign, if you like to pray. Pick your pick.
We're all praying.
Today. You got to pick it today. What would you like?
All right.
Oh, there she is.
All right.
All
so
right.
answer the question.
For me, it would be a baseball title, because I grew up in a baseball family. My father took me to games. I still remember, going down to the old stadium. I remember the Chief Wahoo sign spinning around. By the way, this is a problem if you think about it. The Chief was always spinning around on top like this. No wonder why they couldn't hit. He had a little bat. They were dizzy, And, all the stuff and the empty seats there, and, you walk into into the restrooms, and you wondered if you'd ever get out alive, the stench, all that kind of stuff. And it would mean a lot to me, just like when they went to the World Series in '95. It's like I couldn't believe it, because I was born in 1955, 1 year after the last had gone. And I would love to see them win that, and that's not a knock on the Browns, but I was at least alive when the Browns won the title in '64, 9 years old, in my friend's basement listening on the radio, because Art Modell blacked it out. It's in my book, Brownstown '64. You had to go to Youngstown or Ashtabula or Erie or wherever, try to steal it. I mean, isn't that something? He was afraid they weren't going to sell out. I don't know where that comes from, but that's my thought. So, okay.
All right, that was a great question, though. Yell it out.
Your initial impression when the Browns hired Todd Monken, and has your impression changed as you maybe got to hear him speak at a press conference or get to know him?
All right, so good question. The initial impression you had when they hired the new coach, Monken, for the Browns, and the impression you have now after you've kind of maybe gotten to know him and maybe had some personal conversations.
Well, I've had some, not contact, but I knew people with the Ravens who knew Monken, where he was at the previous 3 years. And, of course, he was here in 2019. He is an accomplished offensive coordinator. In fact, when he left here, in 2019, you can't blame that on him. Freddie Kitchens was the head coach. And basically, all he let he just sort of wanted Monken to hold the clipboard. I mean, he was not interested in anything Todd had to say. And to show how respected he was, after that one debacle year with the Browns, University of Georgia hired him and made him the highest paid assistant in college football, where he was the offensive coordinator there when they won 2 national titles. Then the Ravens went after him, threw a bunch of money at him. They didn't win a title, but they gained, they had good offenses. And John Harbaugh wanted to take him with him to New York. In fact, had he not gotten the Browns job, he was going to New York with Harbaugh. So at the very least, I looked at Monken as, this guy can do this. It's sort of like looking at Jim Schwartz saying, he can do that. He can do defense. Now, then the question became, which would be a better choice? The one thing I didn't want, where they're talking to these 33-year-old, 35-year-old kids who, they weren't ready for this. I'm not sure who's ready for the Browns. but they weren't. So I had an open mind about Monken to begin with, given all that, and nothing has changed it at all in this time. We'll see how all this plays out. I will tell you this, his press conferences will be a lot more interesting than Kevin Stefanski. The man, I've never seen a guy who could be so bland. It must come naturally because you can't even work at it that hard. I mean, by the way, Kevin really is a very, very decent person, all that stuff. And I really think when he was kind of at his best, when he's not feeling a lot of pressure, he's pretty good with offenses and stuff like that. But the Browns wanted kind of a coach with more of an edge. And they looked at it, and I had some talks with Andrew Berry and that, and they said, our offense is so bad. And we did not think, ideally, maybe Schwartz gets the head coaching job and Monken stays offensive coordinator, but Todd goes, I'm going to do that. I'll just go to New York with Harbaugh. I know that works. We have a great relationship. So, and also, he's going to be 60, and you look at that, I'm going to make sure whatever job I pick, I got a chance, or his dream always was to be a head coach in the NFL. Well, he's got it. And hopefully he'll work through all this. But I was reasonably upbeat when they did it, and nothing much has changed.
All right, but it was a good question. Go ahead, yell it out. Did you ever? Oh, he yelled it out. Did you ever meet Paul Brown?
No, but wish I had. And the other guy I wish I had met was Blanton Collier. I wrote a book, Brownstown 64, about them, and there's a lot in there about Paul Brown too. But so many people that I know who are friends, like Bill Glass, who played for the Browns back then, defensive end, who had all the Brown sack records until Miles broke them. He spoke so highly of Blanton Collier, Frank Ryan did, Jim Brown, all these guys. But I wish I had. You'll like that. Did you see how many coaches the Browns have hired, Mike?
They're about the size of this room.
Anybody hear the number? 29 is the number. Just think if they had employee sharing, profit sharing with 29 assistant coaches. Okay, so anyway, they hired 29. So I decided, let's look back at the 64 Browns. How many coaches did they have? Blanton wished it was 8. We'd have had a lesser workload. It was 6, counting Blanton Collier. You had some well-known names like later became a Browns coach. Nick Skorich was there. Howard Brinker was a legendary defensive coordinator. They had Doug Jones was a offensive coach, and they had one guy named Eddie Ulinski. He was just listed as assistant. So now you see, here's how it works. You need this. You have you have coordinators, okay? You have assistant coaches. Now you have assistants to the assistants. And if that's not enough, you have 3 quality control guys. Maybe they're just designed to make sure everybody gets lined up in the cafeteria right when they go in to eat. Think about how many guys. It's a full employment operation. And Todd Monken hired his son, by the way. This is what these head coaches do now. They pass along at least 1 or 2 jobs to relatives in the front office. So,
it's an amazing system, isn't it? All right, guys, go ahead, right here. How did you feel about Stefanski calling the plays?
Guess what, lady?
All ladies get a book.
Yeah.
But the only ones left are Brown's books.
Yeah. What do we have? We have Faith and Browns Blues.
Faith. There is a Faith book and a Browns Blues.
Oh,
Browns
good.
Blues.
There's a woman who enjoys suffering. I don't know what I'll do if they ever are good for a book. Although I proved that Brownstown 64 is their whole title thing. Oh, Stefanski calling plays. It never bothered me that much as some others because actually, it's sort of what he was supposed to do. What bothered me is 2 years in a row giving it up at midseason. What is that about? Seriously, what is that? And so maybe he was losing confidence in himself or feeling pressure from up there. Because, I generally don't like coaches calling plays unless they're really good. Now, like Todd Monken, he's going to call him this first year because he's setting this whole offense up, and he wants it done a certain way. And, Andy Reid, Super Bowl coach, once in a while he has somebody helping him call plays, but he generally calls them. So it really depends where you're at and how that works. And, of course, it helps if you have Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, there you go. Over here, yell it out. What should they do in the first round with their draft choice?
They got 2 picks. All right, we're going to take a poll here. We'll trade down. No, forget that. They could do that too, but I'm saying just stay with me. You're getting in charge of the poll.
Okay.
All right. How many people vote that at least one of those first-round picks should be a receiver?
Oh, not
Okay.
that many?
All right.
Okay. All right.
Huh?
Yeah.
Oh. Which one?
Go ahead.
Roberta.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Now
All
ask
right.
again.
We got receivers. We got offensive line. We got other. I'm not sure what other is, but it's like
Wait a minute. You didn't say quarterback.
quarterback.
Nobody wants a quarterback.
Yeah,
You're not
no.
going to sell many of these books.
No, I'm poised to write a sequel. So, first of all, I like that they traded for this lineman Titus Howard from there. I'm not saying he's great, but he started 93 games in the NFL last year. He allowed 1 sack and 1 quarterback hit. He alternated between right tackle and guard. And I got this guy saying, well, they overpaid they traded a 5th-round pick, but they did some stuff with his contract. I'm like, what are you watching? Yeah, he's not a good run blocker. He allowed 1 sack and 1 quarterback hit. That was 1 quarter for some of the guys playing tackle this year. I'm serious, And people in Houston said that basically he got kind of too expensive for them. The Browns took him on, but they need to keep getting more linemen in here. And because if you don't, then it's hard to judge your quarterbacks and all that stuff.
All right. Big round of applause, everybody, for Terry Pluto. He's got a big chunk of his books available out in the lobby. Terry, make sure you get out there. They're going to try and stop you. So make sure you get out there and sell some books. Folks, thank you very much. Be safe going home tonight. And again, plan on coming next week for Wild Irish Tales. Thank you very much, everyone.